Good day, Premier.
Hello, Bruce.
So the federal election is behind us. Canadians chose a Liberal government and a minority, I should say, a minority Liberal government that doesn't reflect the political preference here in Alberta, of course. Having said that, a lot of Albertans are frustrated. Premier, what's your message after that election?
Well, I'm disappointed. I think it was no surprise that I thought that the Conservatives were better aligned with the objectives of Alberta. I think people are feeling frustrated. I think they're feeling a bit hurt and betrayed that the rest of the country didn't quite see it the way that we did, considering we've had 10 years of terrible policy that have really impacted the ability of our province to attract investment, develop our resources, and get our product to market. And so what I'm going to do is keep an open mind. The new Prime Minister did sign an agreement with all of the provinces just prior to the election, committing to having economic corridors, including oil and gas pipelines, to get our product to market. The problem is that he also said he was going to keep all those terrible pieces of legislation that would continue to dampen the investment climate. So I have 9 things that we believe need to be repealed or revised in order to reset the relationship with Alberta. And I look forward to having a conversation with him very soon so that we can see how far the new government is going to go to address those grievances.
All right. Listen, I may ask you to touch on some of them. I know you've spoken about them many, many times, but let me do this in sort of a two-parter, if you'd indulge me. Calls for separation, they came out immediately from many Albertans that were unhappy with the election results. Others say, look, we don't want to separate from Canada. We just want to get a better deal from Ottawa. So how do we go about doing that? And so I guess the question becomes to you, do you have any indication that this government, this Prime Minister, will be any different than the last one?
They're the same.
No, I don't know, frankly. I think that I have to do my part to try to see if there's some ability to address the issues that we've put on the table. And I think that the immediate reaction that we're seeing from the public and some of the polls that we've seen in the past, particularly one done by Angus Reid, it shows that the frustration with the federal government is strong here, is strong in Saskatchewan, is strong in Quebec. And so it's not just Alberta that has grievances and wants the government, the federal government, to honor the Constitution and to treat us as we're meant to be. We're meant to be equal partners in Confederation. We're meant to have our own exclusive areas of jurisdiction. We're not junior partners in this agreement. And so if we can reset that relationship, then we might be able to address some of those grievances and bring the temperature down. But I fully understand how Albertans are feeling. It's the way Canadians felt. Canadians felt like they had a partner in the United States. And then when we saw that we didn't, because of the tariff war that began, people felt hurt and betrayed. Well, we thought we had a partnership with the rest of the country. And the fact that we haven't been able to develop our resources, we haven't been able to build pipelines to the East Coast in particular. We've seen $170 billion worth of investment that has been quashed. That is what has left Albertans feeling hurt and betrayed. And I think everybody had hoped that we'd be able to turn over a new leaf. We may yet, but at the moment, the initial reaction is the one of disappointment.
Right. Well, let's hope that he addresses some of those. You mentioned there were 9 of them. The No More Pipelines Act, clean electricity regulations, the plastics ban, some of those. These are the things that Albertans are so frustrated with, saying, look, we're not asking for a special relationship, Premier. You've just been saying we just want a fair relationship to allow our entrepreneurs to prosper, to allow our province to move forward.
Well, yeah, let me go through them just in case people think that we're, just piling on for the sake of piling on. These are all legitimate issues that are hampering our ability to create the investment climate that will allow us to be an energy superpower. So we want, number one, for us to see the Prime Minister live up to his promise to guarantee access for oil and gas pipelines and economic corridors. We need a repeal of Bill C-69. You can't have a process that goes on forever, takes 10 years and billions of dollars, and there's no end in sight. It's called the No More Pipelines Act for a reason. There's too many barriers to getting approvals. We want to see a lift on the tanker ban off the BC coast. You can't. What's the point in building a pipeline if you're not going to be allowed to load it on a ship to see it go overseas? We want them to eliminate the emissions cap. An emissions cap, especially with the aggressive targets they were talking about, is actually a production cap. It's not just us saying that. There are multiple different independent organizations and analysts who have said that. We know that they need to scrap the clean electricity reg. Same thing. If you put unreasonable expectations about net zero power grids in place, you're just going to create uncertainty in the market, lack of investment, and unreliability in your power grid. We want to make sure that they're ending the prohibition on the use of plastics. They want to phase out single-use plastics, and which is absurd. We've got an investment in Dow Chemical that the federal governments are partners in creating net zero plastics, and yet they also have this declaration of plastics is toxic, which we've already won in court. Makes no sense. We need them to abandon the net zero car mandate. This is an issue that is of some urgency, because in Alberta, we're supposed to be buying 20% of our cars are supposed to be net zero vehicles by January 1st. There just isn't the production capacity right now. It just means people are going to have to queue up in order to be able to buy cars. It makes no sense. We want to make sure that we retain the oversight on the industrial carbon tax. We've had carbon pricing since 2007. Our system's working well. The industry supports it. There's no reason for the federal governments to intervene. And we also need our companies to be able to celebrate the reductions that they're making in emissions. Right now, that's illegal. It's called greenwashing, and it's a criminal code violation. So all of these things, when we put them on the table, the federal conservative leader said, yeah, seems reasonable. And so that's what I'm moving forward with. Let's make some reasonable changes, reset the relationship, and then let's get on with having Alberta continue to be the powerhouse of the economy in Canada.
Well, I'm glad we took the time to run through them, Premier, because they are, as you say, entirely reasonable. And the more we speak to it, the more Canadians, I think, are starting to understand the position that you are communicating. Your Justice Minister presented the bill this week that's being debated in the legislature, the Election Statutes Amendment Act. It's aimed at making sure that elections are fair and secure. Voting machines are taboo. Tabulators will be gone. It also changes the rules on recall and referendum. Can you explain to us why this bill was necessary?
Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, we had heard from our consultation that the limitations on citizen action were just a little bit too high. You have to have a petition campaign started. And we saw as well, particularly with some of the recall campaigns that happened at the municipal level, the levels were so high as to be unachievable. So we had to make a bit of a change to that. Same thing when we were looking around the world about how other jurisdictions set their petitions for citizen initiative on referenda issues. If you look at California, this is not a right-wing bastion. It's actually quite a left-wing jurisdiction. They have more citizen-led propositions than virtually anyone. They do about 10 a year. And they have a rate that's no higher than 8% of people being able to sign on. We just trust people. We trust that if there's an issue that they care about and they have enough of their citizens who agree, put it to the people and let the people decide. Sometimes you get yes, sometimes you get no, but we felt it was important to make those changes.
You were in Asia last week. One more question for you. Is there a business case for Alberta's oil and gas?
You know, we have such a case for expanding our markets to Asia. I'm still, it's breathtaking, actually, when you go and visit the region and you realize how close it is. So first of all, we've got direct flights from WestJet from between Tokyo and Calgary, and direct flights as well between Seoul and Calgary that allow you to get there in 9 hours. So that's one thing. So it makes the business and tourism traffic, it makes the case for that right away. But then on top of that, we also have the Port of Prince Rupert and the Port of Vancouver, and both of those ports can get to Asia faster than anywhere else in the world. You can get to both of those major centers within 8 to 15 days. The third thing is the Trans Mountain Pipeline. There are already 4 Korean refineries, as well as a Japanese refinery, that have received shipments of oil from Trans Mountain. And those that are purposed for heavy oil love it and want more of it. And again, that's an 8-day delivery. And then finally, with LNG Canada opening up, the Korean gas company and a Japanese gas company, Mitsubishi, own 15% stakes in that. And I can tell you, I think they wish they owned double that amount. So they can't wait to start the conversation about LNG Canada, LNG 2, the second phase of that. And one of the things that I say puts us at such an advantage over the Americans is right now the Americans don't have that same kind of resource on their West Coast. They don't have pipelines going to their West Coast. So everything has to come from the Gulf Coast, go the long way around, and it takes 55 days. We have a real advantage if we could just get our act together and get moving on developing these corridors, building some more pipelines. We have the ability to sell to Asia anything they need, anything that can be transported by rail, by ship, by pipeline. We have the ability to do it, and I think we should seize that opportunity.